Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker, elite kicker, and elite when it comes to responding to the media whenever he decides to speak. He said quite the offseason. Goes back to what he said to the graduating class at Benedictine College this past May, where it seemingly divided the not just sports fan conversation at the bar or conversation at home with their wife or girlfriend or family, but split across all of the news coverage as well. This went beyond sports, where they took his comments about his family values, how he values his wife, the advice he gave to the graduating class, and took it up beyond the scope of what he was trying to actually get across. Here is Harrison Butker speaking to Chiefs media yesterday, where for the first time he's addressing the question about what happened back in May.
I've appreciated all the feedback. I know when it comes to football, I don't really look at the comments, good or bad, towards me, but with it being the off season and stating a lot of these things, I was really curious as to what people would be saying back to me, and I respected all the viewpoints. But in terms of what I said, I prayed about it and I thought about it, and I was very intentional with what I said, and I stand behind what I said. And I really believe if people knew me as a person and understood that it was coming from a place of love and not a place of trying to attack or put people down, that I only want the best for people, and that's what I was trying to say there. And I think the people that were in that gymnasium all understood what I was saying.
Along those lines, obviously not putting people down. Some people obviously interpret that as putting women's value down, particularly in the workforce. What was your response to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think my whole career I've talked about how I'm a husband and I'm a father before it comes to me as a kicker. It's something I've always preached. But then when I use that to talk about women and I say that they should embrace and love being wives and being mothers over their career, I think then it gets construed that I'm trying to put women down, which I'm not at all. I love women, I love my wife, and it comes from a place of love. My wife had never heard me speak publicly, and she was there for that moment, and she was up in the background in one of the offices up there, and I was getting emotional looking at her crying and understanding that she has sacrificed so much for me. She has completely changed her life around, and she has made sure she is focused on being the ultimate wife and the ultimate mother, and I love her so much for that. And I see how happy and excited she is day to day to wake up and embrace that life. And she pushes me to be a better husband and a better father and focus on my 3 children and focus on her over maybe trying to be the best kicker I can be out on that field.
There's Harrison Butker who that spoke more on that and comments about his family, the culture that he and his wife Isabel are trying to instill and raise in their 3 children. They've been married, I believe, since 2018. So, I mean, Chad, he's certainly, was Serena Williams at the ESPYs that took a shot at him?
Serena Williams and whoever else, an actress and whoever else was on stage.
Right.
Quinta Brunson, the actress.
That from literally any other place where the target became Butker instead of the intent of what Butker was saying. He's open to the criticism. He's open to all reactions, unlike those that are closed off to other viewpoints if they don't agree with where someone's coming from.
I don't think a single person that heard him speak right there and answer to what he said could have any issue with anything he just said. Let me start with that. I really don't. Now, I don't think the people that are really offended or mad about the first thing that he said, I don't think they're even going to take the time to hear his response to it when asked about it. But I'm watching that video and hearing his response, and I'm thinking, I can't think of a single person that would take issue with that. He even put it on himself. He said, I've talked personally about how being a husband and father is way more important than my job as NFL kicker. So it was taken by some as me being derogatory when I just said the same thing about women, that it's okay to embrace that role and be more into that and know it's more important than your job. And don't let the world tell you that your career and self is all that's important, and embrace the role of being a mom and a wife and all of those things. I thought it was very well said by Harrison Butker.
I agree. And is there any doubt that if there was a decision to be made by Harrison Butker on whether or not to put family in front of career, in front of being a kicker for the Chiefs, that he would do just that?
No doubt in my mind.
No doubt about it.
I believe
from
the
that
guy's the
perspective.
genuine article. I mean, listening to him, I think that he
knows
he's
his
100%
beliefs
about
and
everything he
lives his
says.
beliefs.
Right. He lives it out. There's no hypocrisy there at all. And I believe everything that he's saying. We have a tendency in America to overcorrect in some of the worst ways possible, okay? Everything Harrison Butker said would have been the consensus way of thinking back in the 1950s, let's say. Traditional family values, right? Man goes off to work, earns a living, wife stays home, watches kids, cleans the house, does all of these things.
Right.
There's really nothing wrong with that way of life. Now, I would say it is wrong to just say this is a woman's role and you have to do this at all times and you have no choices in life. So we correct it in a good way, right? Women are out to the workplace. Women are making more money. They have more opportunities. Those are all great things for women that want to pursue their own professional goals and dreams. That's great. That's a correction. The overcorrection, and this is what we get into in America all the time, is now if someone comes back in 2024 and espouses what would have been traditional views in the 1950s or the consensus among Americans, you may not agree with that anymore. But it's okay to have that opinion. And everything that Harrison Butker said is completely fine. It's okay for you to disagree with it also, and many disagree with it. But everything he said is completely and totally fine. He's not saying women shouldn't have the right to go out of the house and get a job and earn a living. He's talking about his own traditional value system and his belief that, oh, by the way, it's not like he's putting his job and profession on a pedestal over being a support system to his wife and being a father to his kids. So he's saying the exact same things he's saying about women. I got no issue with that. I take issue with things that have been said forever and ever. There's a correction, which many times is a good thing. Then there's an overcorrection to, boy, now if you believe that, you're wrong, and I don't want to hear about it, and you need to be canceled, and let's make jokes about women's sports not being for Harrison Butker at the ESPYs, and so on and so forth. It's an overcorrection. It's the reason we don't have any more good R-rated comedies, because someone decided they were offended, and there was an overcorrection. And now we got to get away from all this humor. And guess what's happening now? An overcorrection in the other direction, where everybody's going to say whatever the hell they want and probably get away with it. And then people are going to get offended again, and we're going to overcorrect the other way. Let's stop it.
But they'll get offended by something else.
Let's stop it.
As
And
part of
what
the
Harrison
cycle.
Butker said was totally fine.
Yeah, and he said at the commencement speech at Benedictine College that the graduating class, the women there, just receiving degrees, were probably more excited about getting married and having children, starting a family. That was the crux of his previous commencement address. I believe he had this one, was it in Atlanta or was it in Kansas? The previous year. It's not the first time that he's pushed his beliefs and his thoughts and opinions at a Catholic-based university or event. And that's exactly what this was here. And the reaction was, how dare you? The reaction to him receiving the contract extension and the big bump in pay. He's now the highest paid kicker in the NFL. He's very good at what he does. And was it Trey Wingo?
Yep.
That put out, well, this goes to show that if you're good at what you do, nothing else matters. Well, I mean, the meritocracy in sports is what Chad and I have long said rules all. The meritocracy, that's why we love sports in this. Because you can go, I've long maintained, you can go to a stadium and by and large, you don't care who you're sitting next to. You're not asking for their voter ideals or whether or not they, went to and stood in line for the Democratic primary or the Republican primary. You don't care because you're rooting on the same team, filled with players and coaches that also may or may not agree with where your opinions and your beliefs lie. And that's exactly what happened here with Harrison Butker. I just wish the reaction by and large from all of us would be more like he put it, where he's like, hey, thanks for your opinion. Thanks for reacting. That was his response to Serena Williams and her comments.
The only thing that could ever or should ever negatively affect Harrison Butker's ability to earn that contract or make that money based on what he said at Benedictine College is if he is so worried about his wife and kids that he can't perform his job because he's not putting anything to it. That's what the NFL's Kansas City Chiefs are looking for. All right? If that were the case and he started to fail at his job, he wouldn't have that contract and he would not have been offered it. There is absolutely nothing that he said that should be taken into consideration at all by the Chiefs or any other team. This is ludicrous of Trey Wingo to say. I'm sorry, but there are a lot worse things going on in the NFL.
But he's also saying
than that.
He's mentioning the meritocracy of it. Yes, that is exactly what happens. By the way, Chiefs also have the punt god, Matt Araiza, on their roster. So they have Butker and Araiza, who have been the center of, if you want to talk about the positions of kicking in the league, one off season to the next, they've got both guys. And again, Araiza debuts in the preseason.
Yeah, the more I hear what Butker had to say and then his response, let's stop overcorrecting. It's okay for him to have that opinion. It's okay for you to disagree with it. But this whole thing of,
instead of overcorrecting,
it shows you that anybody can get paid as long as you're good at your job. What has he done? What has Harrison Butker done?
Except let us know his beliefs and his family values, his core values for he and his family, who by and large seem to be very happy under that roof.
Yes.
And under that home.
Absolutely.
Also, instead of just stop overcorrecting, just stop canceling.
Yeah. Well, also
for everyone. Just stop being a part of the cancel ideals where if you don't agree with someone or if you view them in a certain way or they're a certain party or a certain quality of life, a certain religion, that automatically they're on the opposite side of where you stand and they can't be good for anything is ridiculous. Overcorrection is cancel culture.
I'm fine with people that are annoyed by Harrison Butker or disagree with him or any of those things. But to then take that and to act like, the articles that were written that he should be fired or released by the Chiefs.
The first reaction was, where are the Chiefs? Where's the statement from the Kansas City Chiefs?
Yeah.
Was the first column written. And
I also like Trey Wingo. We've had him on at the Super Bowl a bunch of times. I think he's been good at what he does over the years. I think it's ridiculous for him to just put that out there, quite frankly. To put him in the same boat as criminals, as felons. That's where you use that example. Tyreek Hill getting this contract shows you that if you're really good at something, it doesn't matter what you've done in the past. There's your example. It's not Harrison Butker's speech to a Catholic college that you use that example on. It's terrible.
Yeah, he used the extension news. He says the Harrison Butker extension, making him the highest paid kicker, underscores the inherent truth of the NFL. The better you are at your job, the more a team is willing to put up with, pure and simple. That's what he put on X.
And Harrison Butker is not the example to use on that. That's my point.
No, by any means. Chad, have you seen the number of stadium renderings recently?
Yes.
NFL stadium renderings. We've got one right here that's being built in Nashville, the new Titan Stadium. They're going to have, through Front Office Sports, to release this with the Titans. They're launching a new dedicated fan section in their new stadium that's being built. The Moshpit is what they're calling this. And it's going to have access to seats with a live stage. So you have a live music element to every event there for football. Dedicated invitations to events. Complimentary annual merch. And exclusive chances to buy specially priced PSLs. Fans must submit videos to apply. So you are... you're going through an interview process, more or less. You're showing why you should have access to the mosh pit. I love this. It brings some energy to things. It's like a seat filler in a way at some of the bigger events. Even I'm thinking like NFL halftime shows. That's more or less what these people are doing down on the stadium floor, on the playing surface. They're there to bring the energy. Because the energy is really not in the stadium because you can barely see the show. It's just a big light show more than it is a concert or a state-of-the-art made-for-television event, which is always phenomenal. Love that. And then you have – so the Titans have an open-air stadium currently. It seats roughly 70,000. They're downsizing the number. It'll be around 59,000 to 61,000 when it's all said and done. They'll have some standing room only areas, plus an area on the outside where you don't even have a view of the game itself. It's more or less a fantastic bar where you're going to pay, what, 20, 25 bucks on game day, outside entrance instead of going into the stadium. You go up there and you'll hang out with friends. You'll watch the game at the stadium, but you don't actually watch the game live. You're watching it off of TV, and you're seeing all the other games on like you would if you were at your local pub. Love that, too. That's how they're going to get to the, I think, how they're going to get to the minimum threshold of 70,000 to host the Super Bowl. Okay. They know the rules, and they've found some loopholes. They're getting creative. So are all of the traditional teams.
Can we talk a little bit about the Titans more, though, Hutton,
sure,
first?
Yeah.
On this thing? I think it's really smart. I think it's a little bit – it's very convenient that the biggest complaint about the Titans' new stadium is that PSLs are 4 and 5X what they were before for people that had paid for them.
Yes.
A lot more expensive. And you knew the price was going to go up. But, it's the complaint is you're pricing out the average fan. That unless you want to sit in the last row of the upper deck,
right,
no average person's going to be able to afford that.
For season tickets, yes.
This is a convenient way with the Moshpit to say, well, see, we gave opportunities. These are way reduced PSLs here. The tickets are way lower. If you're a diehard Titans fan, we're going to bring in the people that don't make a lot of money that submit videos and show how much of a Titans fan they are. Now they can afford to go to games as season ticket holders in our Moshpit. I think it's very smart of the organization.
I don't know how many there's going to be there either. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think it's a way to kind of falsely appease those that say that it's too expensive.
Well, this is
by giving someone another option to get in.
Well,
and I think it's smart to do that.
Well, you're speaking from the season ticket holder
yes.
Aspect here too.
Yeah.
Not the single game tickets, which again, they're going from a stadium that cost roughly $270 million to a stadium that's costing over $2 billion. And $700 million of the 2.1-ish billion is coming from the owner. The rest is coming from the state of Tennessee, the city of Nashville taxpayers, and hotel taxes.
Yeah.
Then there are your traditional, I say traditional, the teams and the cities that you think of that have the word association: Cleveland Browns, outdoor stadium; Cincinnati Bengals, outdoor stadium; Pittsburgh Steelers, outdoor; Baltimore Ravens. There's Green Bay. There are some stadiums that are just going to be there, right? Lambeau Field, to me, is going to be there. I worked in the league. I've traveled to a lot of different stadiums. The Cleveland Browns' advantage of being right there on the water with the wind, the elements, it's going to be awful elements, and there is an advantage to playing there for your home games, especially if you're hosting teams from the South, especially if you're hosting teams from Texas or Florida or the West Coast. It makes sense. They're also putting forth renderings for future stadium hopes in a dome. Here's their reveal, a new dome stadium in Brook Park. It's beautiful. It looks awesome. But the trend is the dome for any club, any franchise, not just some of the up-and-comers or the relocated teams. This goes for your traditional teams across the league as well. And here's why, in my opinion. Because take the case of the Tennessee Titans. The deal that was struck in order to have the public funds to help get the stadium here, and it's going to bring a lot of events here. Everything from the college football playoff, college bowl games, the Final Four. So you can have the Sweet 16. I mean, there's so many different elements. WrestleMania, concerts, you name it. They can host it. I think every NFL owner is looking around going, okay, Jerry Jones owns his stadium. We're not the Cowboys. How do we get that? Well, Amy Adams-Strunk and the Titans just laid out a blueprint for this if you want the dome. And the dome allows you to host these events, and there's no questions asked. And you're going to get a Super Bowl as well, at least one, maybe more. Chad, and I think the other part of this is you don't have to pay the full freight here. You don't have to. You're breaking the bank with your liquidity, but the billionaires are putting up $700 million, and the taxpayers are then fronting it both through city and state because they're going to have the occupancy for hotels that they've struck deals with where they need a minimum threshold of roughly 70% occupancy over 365 days, or they're going to help that company meet the 70% threshold. Everybody wins. The taxpayer pays more. And in the case here, the owner gets the money raised and earned and made inside of that dome for any event, by the way. And then the city and the state gets what's outside. They're developing their own area. I will not be surprised if that's a similar deal that we see around the league now, where stadiums are popping up everywhere. And I hate it because I love the outdoor aspect of football. I want natural grass, and I want outdoor football. And by and large, that detail, that fact that I think most football fans would agree with, if you're going to a game, especially if you're a diehard football fan, you want the outdoor aspect. That's what I think of when I think of football. And now you're getting the all-inclusive, every event hosted there, and it's the NFL owner, one of 32, in your market that's going to reap a massive, massive win. Because, I mean, Cleveland's not being mentioned for anything. They don't have a bowl game. They're not hosting Super Bowls. Outdoor concerts are happening in months that, can make that happen, but you certainly don't see the frigid air or the wind helping things. That's why they want the dome. It's not because, we want to play football indoors and all the fans are still going to come. They want every single event there and the outdoor elements and what makes, to me, football. It sets it apart from the other sports. That's going by the wayside now.
Yeah, I hate it. And for the reason you said, you've been to every NFL stadium at this point with your past job, and the ones that are memorable to you are the outdoor ones for the most part, right?
And the loudest ones in the NFL are Seattle and Kansas City, and those are outdoor. And that's also part of the pitch is, we want to have a home field atmosphere. The loudest ones are outdoor with a college feel to it.
It removes the spirit of the game in a lot of ways. I don't like watching football games that are indoors. I've seen a lot of good ones because two good teams are matched up and it can get loud and all those things. I'm not saying it's not possible, but when every venue starts to look the same, it's the reason I prefer college football to the NFL. There's such a variance of style, not just on the field and play, but surroundings. Mm-hmm. There's a different spirit in Baton Rouge, Louisiana versus Evanston, Illinois versus Seattle, Washington for a college football game. It looks very different. It feels different. It is different. When everything starts to become the same, which is the same here, let's become civic-minded billionaires in that we're going to build an all-purpose stadium that we control and bring a lot more events to and hopefully get some more people in there because when the weather's bad, now fans are going to go to the games more. Whatever your reasoning is, it's about money. It's about making more money. That's what you're trying to do if you're the owner. I would argue is your job and your primary focus as an owner of an NFL team, is it to be the owner of the football team and bring football fans what they want and make sure that you're owning the NFL team to the best of your ability, or is it to make the most money possible within the construct of the city and the tax breaks I can get and the other events I can bring to the city? I believe it's to be an NFL football owner and to run the football team. But it doesn't matter what I think because I'm not in the business of making billions of dollars. And these NFL owners are, and they're going to choose the ability to make more money over that. And I'm with you, Hutton. It has nothing to do with, the fans are going to be well-served with this. And I think it helps the city in a lot of ways if you get bigger events. I'm not saying it doesn't. Yeah. But if the Cleveland Browns move indoors or some of these teams we know for outdoor football, does that help the Cleveland Browns? No.
Well, and
I don't think it does.
You could say, what about retractable roof? That can be added, but by and large, the stadiums with the retractable roof on game day, the roof is closed.
Yeah.
For as often or as little as they actually use it, it was going to add about $700 million to the cost of the stadium here in Nashville to have a retractable roof. It's not worth it if you're going to have to then ask for more funds and more, I guess, agreements, handshake agreements, and more with the IOUs that'll be done here. A lot more payoffs. And I don't disagree with the idea of not having one. Now, Buffalo, by the way, one of the things that the team said was they want to have a 365-day venue, but they want to have, quote, outdoor football. That's what they
Good.
said. So props to them. No roof, outdoor football.
Good.
Was what they put on there as one of their goals. Although, again,
I've long said
365
Buffalo's a better city than Cleveland, so this proves my point.
365-day use was another goal. It's one or the other, though. And I understand why you want to use your venue more than just for the 10 home games plus if you're the Buffalo Bills or the Cleveland Browns or whoever. There's Buffaloes.
Yeah, I like to look at football for football purposes. And as an NFL fan and as a football fan, I'm telling you, the football fan in me is offended by all of this.
Oh, yeah.
I hate it from a football perspective.
But from the owner's perspective, they're looking at L.A.,
sure,
Atlanta, I mean, these new, Minnesota, the domes that are going up and the events that are being hosted there, and they're thinking these owners are becoming the haves. And everyone's a billionaire. I get it. They're all haves. But in that small fraternity, there are the haves and the have-nots. And they want to be a part of the upper crust. They do.
Yeah.
That's it.
I would also say, like,
and by the way, they can do it with public funding.
I would get it. I'm going back to the football part of this. I would get it if there was no salary cap and there were no limits on your spending. And boy, these owners that have this indoor facility that make all this extra money, they're spending more on players. Their payroll's much bigger. But they're winning every game for that reason. I got to catch up to them.
It's beyond
from
football.
the football standpoint.
They're splitting certain revenues, but the other events that you host there, they don't have to split amongst the other owners.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to in the revenue sharing aspect. Armando,
I hate it.
Yeah, me too. I want natural turf. I get
it. I totally get it from the owner's perspective, but I still hate it.